Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.
aquariumradio.com. I'm your host, Janet Lesson, with my co-host, Dr. Sasha Lesson, and we have a very important guest today with us, Karen Christine Patrick, and she's a researcher and writer living in Texas, working in the areas of the experiencer phenomenon, exopolitics anomaly, and consciousness studies. She is a social media consultant to the group, the Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters. And do me a favor, honey, read from here. I pulled Karen back into the queue. Karen acts as an administrator. Go ahead.
For that organization group on Facebook.
Oh, sorry, that doesn't work. I can't call her at the same time. What a system. Okay, keep going for reading.
Karen is the founding administrator for Earth Anomaly Research Society Facebook group. She's a co-author with Brett Collins Shepard of the ebook Paradimensional Space Art, a book about embedded ET communication in space agency images. Also, Karen is an experiencer herself and a contactee, and has just published an ebook of downloaded and encoded poetry called Thought Equals Matter. Karen was in recruitment through the California public schools in the 1960s during the Cold War, when they were looking for psychic children to the gifted and talented programs to use in remote viewing programs. A divine intervention prevented a kidnap attempt, and the family moved to Oregon. During her life, Karen received downloads throughout her life of information pertaining to planetary events. However, she didn't understand these messages until, starting in 1907, the personal journey...
2009.
You go ahead.
Starting in 2009, the personal journaling practice changed into automatic writing, and she made contact with otherworldly beings receiving messages. Okay, let me see if she's here. 1 second while I click her unmute. Hi, Karen.
Okay.
Are you with us?
Yes,
Good.
I'm with you.
Hi.
Can you hear me?
Great. I can hear you. Can you hear us?
Yes, I can.
Excellent. All right. So we're on the phone today. And I wanted to pull up what you said. We're going to talk about Karen's experiences, and we're going to also talk about the legacy of AR Bordon. So we're going to tell our listeners who AR Bordon is and the group called the Life Physics Group. But before we get into that, I want to just welcome you to our show. Thanks for coming here today. And I don't think that's your whole bio. I just grabbed part of it. I was rushing to get this up and get it going. I was having trouble with Blog Talk, but we're up and running. And I was curious about your divine intervention prevented a kidnap attempt. First of all, what do you want to tell us about yourself? And then at some point here, I want to talk about what happened that you moved to Oregon.
Oh, yes. Okay, well, I was born in California and went to the first grade. Well, went to several schools, but by the time I got to first grade, I was tested and then tested some more and then tested some more, and they put me in the gifted program in the California public schools in the Bay Area. And it got weird. It got weird. They put me in the gifted talented program, and basically they kept testing for all kinds of things. And one of the things that they did, without my parents' knowledge, was brought me into the vice principal's office. I thought I was in trouble. And there was a gentleman there in kind of a frumpy tweed suit who really, I don't think that he was connected to the school. I felt like he was, I don't know, he just was very professorial and kind of looking at me like a bug, like a specimen. Wow. And he proceeded to give me a full, like a complete psych evaluation, like anyone would get for, various types of jobs or the military or something like that, which is unusual for a 7-year-old. And the other part of that test was the ESP card. So some people might be familiar with those, where it has like a triangle and a circle and a wavy lines. And I didn't know what it was about, but I remember seeing these cards, and he made me point to these cards. And anyway, and so that was strange. And then there began to be a altercation, if you will, between my and I'll have to back up a little bit. My dad was a conspiracy theorist guy, okay? So I'm second-generation conspiracy theorist, and my parents were political as well. And my dad knew about mind control and, the Federal Reserve and Bilderbergers and Illuminati. That was stuff I grew up with.
Wow.
And, yeah, it's unusual. My father was going to be in the FBI, and then he didn't want to carry a gun, so he quit. But apparently he kept up with those kinds of topics on his own. Anyway, so what happened was my parents were having a political meeting in their home, and one gentleman showed up, and he was really an odd sort of person. And my mother is a bit psychic, so she started getting worried about me and my brother. We were what happened later is my parents said, this is really weird what's happening to our daughter. She shouldn't be tested like that. So they pulled me out of the public school.
About the 60s and 70s this is going on.
Yeah, this would be 68. Yeah, about 68. Yeah, well, yeah, this was the Cold War. This is when they were using, you guys have had Andrew Bukshaga on there. They were looking for psychic, gifted, talented children to be in programs of the government. I have met so many people now in subsequent years, of either ones that went through it or went through some of the same testing that I went through. And basically they were looking for maybe early super soldiers or stuff for Project Monarch, and there was a Project Monarch in part of my story. But anyway, my parents didn't like what was going on. They pulled me out of that school and put me in a parochial school, and we were on our way back. This is where the kidnap thing happened. We're on our way back from that school, which is in another town, And there was this divine intervention was suddenly there's a road problem, like they have to put up cones and reroute this bus, right? And my dad my mom was nervous, so my dad went to go pick us up at the bus stop, and that gentleman was sitting right across the street in his car. And later on, through their own investigation, they found out that this gentleman was actually part of the Nazi Party, believe it or not, and that his wife worked for the school. She had access to my records. And so there was some kind of thing that they were trying to get us into. Later on, my parents actually ran into their political involvements, ran into some of and we have Nazis from Project Paperclip. We had Nazi Party here in the United States. So there was that side of the box kind of happening. You know, it was a very interesting time, that era.
Right.
So basically what happened, I really believe that was the divine intervention. And then there were some other threats, and my parents said, you know what, this is just getting too weird for us. My dad got a job offer in Oregon for what he does. And so we moved up there, and everything quieted down except for the fact that whenever we had achievement testing in the 7th grade, there was a call to the school to tell me to stay at school, that my mom was going to pick me up, and my mom didn't call. And I was standing out there all by myself in front of the school. Fortunately, there was like one office person still there. I went in and said, hey, my mom's not picking me up. And they did not know who that was that called, so that freaked everybody out. And then the other time that I had achievement testing, there was another weird incident as well. So it was kind of like even though they kind of lost the grasp of me for whatever programs they had planned, I was still very interesting to somebody. And the monarch.
So let me just interject here. So somehow we don't know who they are at this point, the government,
right,
or the secret government, somebody knew who you were, and you don't know how they knew it. That maybe does it go back a generation or two, or is it? I did investigation of my. Yeah, I did investigation of my family. My family has a psychic side to it. You know, where I recently did my genealogy and found out. You know, we went back to at least on the Irish, Scottish side. We went pretty far back in terms of like what you should call bloodline type of folks. We have, my grandmother and my mother and her sisters were always talking about their Irish was really turned on that day. So they would, you know, kind of be in sync, you know, buy the same wrapping paper for Christmas, or one would think of the other one and they would call. And there was just all kinds of incidences in my family in that regard. For myself, I guess the way that I would put it for me, my experiences is I had extra information always coming in. So I would be walking through my day. Yeah, and it would be like I would be in an incident and extra information would come in. Now, in the days before the Internet, it would be hard to follow up on that, like at the library or something like that. Now that we have the Internet, I just like Google whatever popped into my head, and usually it helps greatly in research because you're researching something, and keywords pop into your head, and you go look them up, and now you've got a whole bunch of more things to add to your research that you're doing. So this is part of what I'm able to do, but my stuff isn't really useful. Like as a psychic kind of person, I can't tell you if you're going to meet a tall dark stranger, or you know, if you're going to get a good job, or it's not practical stuff like for a regular show. Right.
It tended to be weirdly enough. Go ahead.
Hold on 1 second here. Dr. Lesson has to leave. Do you want to ask or interject anything before you leave?
Oh, I'm fascinated by what you're saying, Karen.
Thank you.
I just want to say before I go that you're one of the people that's contacted AR Bordon. And we've been studying many, many years with Zechariah Sitchin, who has basically warned off on saying anything about what our makers have been up to for the last few decades. And A.R. Bordon was part of a group called The Link, where he met with extraterrestrials and other people that were representing the Earth, and that what he learned has brought us up to date on basically what's an ongoing Anunnaki war between the factions of Nanar, who's when King Anu abdicated, and Nanar was a compromise candidate that became king back around 1400 AD, and I guess BCE is what we call it now, and all that information about what happened next is amazing, because what Bordon has brought out and shared with you, Karen, and other people that knew him, and written some of it up, is this war that's going on that our government is trying to ride out, not get caught up on, and still all of our institutions have been infiltrated by both factions who are killing each other, and so we are very heavily involved with extraterrestrials now, and we're hoping that you, Karen, and anyone else that has any of the information that Bordon has talked about, not just written about, but has rapped about, we're so hungry for that information.
I think that's great, and I think you're totally spot on. Long story short, I found out I was able to very easily be a contactee, and one of the ways that happened for me was I am able to go back through my ancestral line, so I can contact ancestors, and one of them turned out to be self-identified to me as an Anunnaki ancestor, and told me exactly what you said, that there are factions, and that's part of why the whole Anunnaki scenario is difficult to understand, because of this war, and part of like why they were trying to find psychic children, and maybe why they were tracking my family in particular, was that that we're kind of their children, you know, and we fall down into different types, and basically they're trying to find us. They're trying to find the ones that they can contact, the ones that they can utilize in this interaction, and so I think part of why they kind of knew who I was they were looking at least for people like me or children like me at that time.
Right.
And I was, yeah, go ahead.
Perhaps a bloodline or a soul connection to them, or both. It doesn't have to be mutually.
Well, your father had, it's obvious your father had the kind of information that an insider has, and that means that that your whole family is tuned into something, and it's not random when people get information like your dad did either.
Well, it's even not random that they get involved. They start having an interest.
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
There's something there for them, yeah.
There's a reason. In other words, this is something that I kind of investigated, is that, you know, like I said, the kinds of information I got was meta information, like you were talking about, like the planetary situation or economic situations or whatever, instead of like, you know, day-to-day stuff. Stuff that popped in my head tended to be kind of up from the looking down on Earth kind of perspective, and it wasn't particularly useful to me as a person, and I didn't know what to do with it, so I kind of walked away from that or pushed it away for a long time. And now at this stage in my life, at 45, I basically had an implant break in my skull. I don't know how to explain it any other way. One day I was having a lot of belief system issues, and there was an audible piezoelectric ping noise in my skull that echoed around in my skull for a couple of minutes. And I was not okay for a while. I was kind of disoriented. And then all of a sudden, a bunch of things that I had been suppressing just started just like pedal to the metal. It just started jamming on, because I believe what happened to me is when they couldn't control me or get a hold of me back then, somewhere along the way, they got a hold of me. And my mother even said that. She said she had a dream that I was taken away and they did something to me and it brought me back and I was okay.
So were you were saying that your family was, evangelical Christian or something? What was your background in
a couple of us. Go ahead.
Was that you? I talked to so many people. I got confused in the story. So
yes, no, that is my. I have a evangelical Christian background. Most of my family's in that. There's a few of us break out that are independently spiritual, and that was, to me, it was comfortable to be thinking the kinds of thoughts I did even as a young person, and be in that kind of formula of a family. And a philosophy and belief system. So I just put it out of my mind until I came to a point, like I said, in my late 40s. My kids are raised. I'm free to be myself. You know, I'm going through life transitions. It's like I might as well just explore all of this. And when it happened, I was doing journaling, and the journaling started after this, event with my brain, started turning into automatic writing. and I started getting messages, and then I started getting telepathic messages. So it was kind of a process. And when I did, I started making contact like massively, like different beings, ancestral beings, extraterrestrial beings. I guess apparently what I was able to do back then kind of switched back on, and then all of a sudden I started writing a lot, like notebooks and notebooks and notebooks of the overall situation on the planet, including what you're talking about, Sasha, about the factional, the different philosophies battling each other about what to do about humans. And so that was
is coming up to a head. I have friends from the Middle East that are telling me that Israeli friends that are getting the same message, same thing like you described exactly. They open up and they start getting messages, and what it comes down to, it seems like that the factions, that the Islamists, Iranians have their Messiah, and the Israelis, a lot of them believe they have their Messiah coming, and Marduk is saying he's bringing a special person, and there's a lot of going to be like the second coming of Jesus, and designated human. But each side has their own designated human, and we're just hoping you can help us clarify all this stuff.
Well, that's great, because go ahead, Janet. No, go ahead.
Yeah, I wanted to say one thing, and then I'll give it back to you, the baton back to you. There seems to be a correlation between these type of messianic people or contactees or experiencers and these fundamentalist religions, which if you are raised by fundies, you tend to rebel against them or else conform. So there's a 50-50 chance that the children being raised by fundies are going to go in the other direction, which I was
totally conformist. I was completely conformist. I was drinking the Kool-Aid. I was inside the box. I was there. I mean, on the one hand, what I kind of say is that part of what happens in that belief system is you do have some training in ethics. You have some training in spirituality that can be positive for your belief system in your life, but you also have it mixed with hierarchical control messages, which really have a structure to them. And I've paid attention to you guys' work. So this idea of Marduk and the other one is giving us this, or Enlil giving us this human structured way that's very strict, it's very role, gender, defined, and all of that. And I call that hierarchical thinking. And I'll say this, my automatic writing got to be very interesting because I'm trying to break out of that type of thinking. And I do some searching in different groups. I start finding this hierarchical stuff, not just in fundamentalism, but pretty much you put enough humans together, you're going to get sort of two basic human models. You're going to, and you're talking about Enlil people and Enki people really helped. Because it was kind of like, I talk about it this way, if you have kids, you can send those kids to a prep school and they're really going to wear a uniform and they're going to grow up to be executives. And that's that really hyper-controlled, way to raise a child, for good or ill. And then I happen to actually be an unschooling, homeschooling mom. So there's homeschooling where you basically have free-range children and they're free to kind of explore and be who they want to be. So that's another philosophy, and I think the Enki side of the box was wanting to have free range humans, and that disturbed the Enlil side of the box. So that's the basic breakdown. The basic breakdown is a hierarchical structure for humans, humans in a playpen, or let them be who they are, let them grow up as a species and figure out who they are. Kind of a different philosophy, a free-range philosophy, which is scary. It's scary for some parents to let go of their kid and say, and that's kind of who we are, right? We're their kids, to let them be who they are.
In psychology, we say it's really interesting. A centered or mature person can embrace both parts, both the free-range and the disciplined part, assess the situation, and see how much of each to use it in terms of action. It doesn't have to be an either or. and I think that Enki and Nimma and Ningishita, our genetic makers, were trying to, realizing we were very empathetic, that they saw us as a way of caring more about what everybody, the lights that everybody has to shine, not just following the leaders. But it wasn't like throw out all organization entirely. It was a matter of, can we embrace both? And that was what the joy of creating this human race that we are ultimately was, that we could create creatures that are both organized and empathetic and care about. And one of the things about the Anunnaki is, in their hierarchy, there's no women at the top. And they deliberately keep females down, and they keep pure races, and they keep people that aren't related to them by blood or by genes in a lower status than those who are. And it's obvious to anyone that tunes into people like we psychotherapists do, that everybody's got their light to shine in their own individual, unique genius.
Yes. Oh, I couldn't agree more. And that's really it, is to get into that balance and to have an advanced toolbox. Because to me, I mean, this is what happened, sort of to reprogram me or allow me to explore different belief systems. I had one particular race. They call themselves to me the Joyous, and they are like us, you know, in the future when we get past this point. And so they had me write pages and pages and pages and pages of journaling where they basically worked me through, you know, the concept of a strict pyramidic hierarchy versus a holarchy. And if you study Ken Wilber's material, it is that balance, really. It's the ability to have it, the organization from the inside out, and to be able to be ambidextrous in terms of being able to strike out on your own and have a good idea and be self-actualized and be mature. Because, like, one of the problems with the hierarchy is that it depends on everyone in the hierarchy being, to some degree or another, learned helplessness, where they just can't do stuff. And so that leads to kind of a really permanent, you know, permanent being a teenager, a permanent teenager, or permanent adolescent, where we don't make our own decisions about what we believe. We let that be defined by someone else, and we can't do anything, you know. And that's you kind of cripple people emotionally to keep this up. And we're you know, humans don't stay static. We grow. We're growing as humans. We're growing as collectives. Our country's changed. You know, I'm just old enough to see all the changes from, you know, civil rights. I'm pretty young when that's going on. One of the questions on that eval they gave me is who's Martin Luther King, and then when I had an eval later for a job situation, that same question was on there. So that's an interesting question, because depending on who you think that is, a stimulator of civil rights, you know, that kind of is talking about where we're at as a society, I think. And so all these different rights are coming to bear, women's rights and civil rights and gender rights, and congratulations to gay marriage. It just happened at the Supreme Court level.
Right.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. And then I work with the experiencer movement. So we're in another group that is, I work with the Dr. Edgar Mitchell, with Ray Hernandez, which you guys have interviewed, and this is another civil rights issue, because experiencers are continually made fun of.
Well, look at the media. Every time there's a sighting, they might report or even show the video, but then they laugh about it later, and they make jokes. So that they're invalidating those. It's politically incorrect to joke about UFOs at this point, because there are a large faction of this society now that believe in extraterrestrials, and yet the Fox News controlled media keeps making fun of those who have had sightings of, you know, things in the sky, let alone those who have been abducted or had direct had.
The fox is in charge of the chicken coop. We're the chickens, and they're the fox.
Right. So
that's good. I like that. I call that I call that media treatment. It's called the treatment, and it's you can just sit there and watch it. You know, if you just get on YouTube and watch UFO Report on the news, you will see the treatment exactly like you're saying. They'll play a science fiction show theme like the X-Files or Star Trek or Twilight Zone. It'll be at the end of the news program where they do the fun whatever stories after the weather and everything, and they'll joke, and it'll be after sports. They'll joke and carry on. They'll say, "Oh, that was really out of this world," and then they'll, show the footage or whatever. And then they'll always have a debunker. They always have somebody go, "Oh, I don't believe in that," and then they'll take the part of the interview of the person who's the witness that makes them look the most kooky. However, whatever they said, they'll pick out the part that sounds kooky, or makes them not look authentic. And this is professionally designed. It's been designed since the Robertson panel early days when
it goes back to the creation of religion, to that which you believe and that which you're not supposed to believe. So it's always making fun or polarizing that which you are against that which you identify as not being. So be it a race, color, creed, orientation, religion, country. And it's, John Lennon said it, imagine we have no country, imagine we have no religion. Yeah. And that would set us, but in this current system of religion and self and not self and, what you identify with and what you polarize and demonize, there's going to be the continual fight for civil human basic rights, because the religion system allows to come in and take someone else's rights away, like the cultures that put women in burqa and do clitorectomies, and
or take their salaries down here
in the name of religion. And that's the whole problem. And that was created by Enlil and the whole Enlil-like plan as a psychological manipulation and control mechanism of humanity. And what were you going to say, honey? I don't know what you were saying from my.
I'm saying that here in America, the same thing is happening, that women are being disadvantaged here, too.
Well, yeah, it's everywhere. Yeah. They were joking with Bruce Jenner, who's now, I forgot her name, but they said, well, now you get 70% less pay, and you get to be judged on your physical appearance rather than your abilities and your mental capabilities. So, okay.
Well, the whole trick is to be able to express both self and not self. So you have an individuality, but you also have empathetic oneness with other consciousnesses, and not just other people, but with the planet and with the creatures as well.
Oh, true. I think you hit the nail on the head where hierarchy has to create an adversary. They do adversary creation as part of structuring the hierarchy. Part of the reason why this is really hard for us to manage is that I was actually told that this hierarchy construction is thought form technology. It's used by belief systems, and it's actually thought forms that are interconnected together by certain basic beliefs, and that this technology, we would use an algorithm in a computer program, which is basically a thought written down on paper that makes something happen in a computer. This thought form technology works in sort of the etheric level, and it's really old. It's like millions of years old, and it was used to run like the Orion Empire, and the whole empires were run using thought form technology. And our thoughts and what's built into our DNA allows us to be really, really affected by thought, just like, a stupid commercial jingle will suddenly be popular to everybody, or something like that. That's and we can talk about that with AR Bordon. But just to finish what I was saying is that part of why we're so susceptible to it is this has been developed over a very long time, and it particularly affects kind of our kinds of beings. And it's been applied to us, but the thing is, it can't work if we outgrow it. And I think as a collective, we're starting to outgrow it because it's childish. It's really kind of like two sports teams. Which team are you going to pick? Sort of thing. And that's part of the turmoil is the fact that we're coming to a space where we're. What happened to me when I had that implant break, I didn't know what I believed. I was very confused because I knew I didn't believe what was before, but I didn't know what was new to believe, so I was very confused. and that it took me a while to sort myself out. And talking about the situation with women, the society's only been thinking with one half its brain. It's been thinking in a patriarchal way. Not adding both the divine feminine and the divine masculine in balance. And if you only have half your brain, you're not functioning really well. So let me jump over to an AR Bordon concept by way of introducing, how I became very intrigued with his material. What I was just talking about, the space where our thought form constructs and all thought exists. Some people call it the Akashic record. Rupert Sheldrake called it the morphogenetic or morphogenic field, which is where all of the thoughts of a particular species resides, And but what AR Bordon, I had my own terminologies for things, and when I met him in 2011, so I'm sort of a recent, person who's pursuing that story. He talks about the cumulus. So this is all the accumulated knowledge of all humanity in the past up to this present time. And the way Rupert Sheldrake called it, it's what causes evolution is all the individuals in a group experience a bunch of things and they adapt to the next level or the next level and the next level because they have a shared learning that's going on as a species. Well, that's what's going on with us. And what he was teaching people to do, amongst other things, was to access that cumulus and get information, which I sort of already kind of was, but I didn't know what I was doing. And that's why I appreciated his material as I got into it. And that's what I want to really focus on is he was a very complicated person, but what attracted me to what he was saying was that he gave terminology and techniques, and everyone I've met subsequent has been in different aspects of the terminology and techniques to understand the underlying construct of our thought reality. And he gave names for that stuff, and that was really helpful. So when we want to know something, we can go to the cumulus. And this is a great way. This is so fun for me because I'm a technology person. And I realized that our technology mimics this whole process. For instance, what do we have now? We have a phone, and I'm going to go get my data in the cloud. And cumulus and cloud are nearly the same darn word, right? And then it's me doing it. I'm using my body, my mind, my human instrument to go do that. I am the iPhone, right? Or perhaps I'm an Android, So it's fun because I realize we've got our technology, like it's training wheels to teach us how to do this. And when we go Google something, that's vector intention. So when you go to the cumulus to find out something, it's just like Googling. You have a question in your mind, and you meditate, and something comes to you that is like Googling, vector intention. You use your intention to vector into the cumulus, and then you download, right? Which is awesome. Our whole technology, I think our technology is a sneaky way to teach us all this stuff. So it's been fun to think of that part of it.
I think it's happening all along. Nassim Harriman said that we're continually feeding information into the morphogenic field at the speed of light because there's a singularity, which is like a warp, a time warp, or a space warp, space warp within each thing, including each person. So each person has their own singularity. They are up-leveling. This is how we break through the matrix and we create an evolved, conscious, ascended species, is we up-level ourselves individually, and that goes into the morphogenic field. But the morphogenic field is coming down, and up-leveling is getting the information. And then it repeats at the speed of light until, we break through, like you said earlier, we grow up, we become conscious. And that's how the Illuminati no longer control us, and that's probably why they're in a panic right now, exerting extra propaganda, like Jade Helm supposed to happen in July, to try to get the reins back on our reality. But I think it's we've already reached escape velocity, and there's nothing they can do. But that's just what I'm getting.
I agree. I agree that they're throwing everything at us to slow us down. Frequency, attacks, our GMO food, the chemtrails, electronic harassment, and all of this to kind of keep us in a fog. And then at the same time, they're monitoring people like me and everyone now to see who's going, to kind of get a picture of where our collective is going. Are we going to break through this? I think they've monitored individuals in the past and still currently people of interest. I call it assets under management is what I call it. And then but they're also now monitoring everybody because, they're getting paranoid about where the breakout groups or, what's going to happen. They don't know because this is happening. What I believe, and a term that came to me one time, is that we, under this level of threat, of degradation of the environment and all the things that are happening, there's a deep thing that kicks in, and it's basically survival. It's survival of the species that will kick in. It's a biological imperative now that we evolve because we are going to. If we don't, we're in trouble. Completely as a whole species, we're in trouble if we don't adapt and evolve past what they're throwing at us. And so, that's why it's interesting because I've now met a lot of people who've had implants or had all kinds of, mind control who it seems like they hit this in their middle age. They kind of break out of it. It doesn't work anymore. Even very heavily mind controlled people will have it break at about this age, in 40s and 50s, somewhere in there. And so that's fascinating to me because I'll kind of double back on my story as a young person. When I was in the parochial school, I had a little friend that I met in the public school, and she started really being my friend, like wanting to talk to me and play dolls and all those things. And she asked me a lot of questions. And based on the things that she said, I realized much later that she was a monarch asset. Her father was a military asset out of China Lake, and the questions and things that she was telling me was to try to interest me or entice me or do something to get me interested and go over to her house more. And now that I look back on it, they were using her to try to get me to talk and try to get me, back on the program that they were trying to entice me to become a part of. And they wanted my free will. They could have just grabbed me, but they wanted me to participate. For some reason, they didn't want to just, drug me up or do the things that they used to do. They for me in particular, they wanted me to be participatory because then I would have been more help, to whatever they were trying to have me do. So the thing was right there was, and then, when that didn't work, the whole family suddenly disappeared and went back to China Lake, and then she sent me letters, and then I stopped writing her because the letters were strange. And so here's this whole program that's going on. It's very intense, and it's the worst of the worst mind control. The Project Monarch came from the Nazi paperclip, guys that did mind control in Germany. I mean, it was awful stuff.
Right.
And our government took it and used it just as other governments did and continued to experiment with it. And, it changed from, I believe, drug-based, so they're giving a lot of drugs, lobotomies, all kinds of physical stuff like that. Then later down the road, it became, they also did ritual abuse, which causes the mind to break up into compartments, and then they would control those different personalities within one person. And then eventually became electronic. As far as I understand it, they're using electronic means to do the same thing. So it's still going on, but the human spirit is amazing. When you talk, you guys know, all of these people who've broken out of those programs and are talking about it. The human spirit is, and who we are, is amazing because we're breaking through it. The ones that they had in lockdown are breaking through it.
What they were trying to figure out is how they, even to get an implant, the human spirit, the free will, the consciousness, or the soul, or whatever you call it, overwrites it and overcomes it repeatedly. And so, and here we are within a matrix which has been defined and programmed, and then we're individuals and they program us. But despite it all, we come out of it. And I think it has something to do with perhaps soul signatures or bloodlines, and that's why they try to track people down. Spielberg said that in his primary character in Taken, the young girl, that they were able to track her as she came down and was bored into her body. So I think that their level of technology or information is at that level, that they can track incoming souls and who's coming in to be incarnated, because apparently this is a prison planet or a matrix, and they control both sides whether we're alive or discarnate. And that's my information. But back to you.
Yeah, I think that's true. I think I was really I kind of suspected I had bloodline things going on, and my partner did Brett, he's real smart with he studies human origins through ancestry, and we went through my background and we found one relative that went way back to the kings of Ireland and Scotland and all that. So we were able to find some of those family lines, and I think that just basically has to do with what energy signature you have, what capacity that you're born with related to psychic stuff. And I think this meta thing is a key. In other words, not necessarily, I believe all humans are gifted somewhere or another, and I think people should know that Life Physics Group was looking at all the different kinds of giftedness, and I think certain ones had a meta capacity, so they're able to look overview, or I don't want to say higher level, but just higher hierarchical level, and see what was going on with humanity in general. And I think it's amazing to me now how, because I didn't have, the research level yet, that now that I've gotten to where I'm in the space where you guys are looking at, how much I knew already about that.
Right.
It's little bits and pieces, and then it just kind of suddenly comes together. And that's really important to say, is that the way that they keep humanity kind of in a fog is compartmentalization. And my guide told me to break the word down this way. Come apart, mental ally, I say shun. So it's like they keep us factional with each other, like come apart with me, you're my mental ally, and we're going to shun these other guys. So that makes us dubious of all kinds of information because we'll like reject it out of hand because it's not in our group. Okay, the reversal of that.
That's the Godspell factor, that you come in with the programming, and you have they have the virus and the antivirus. That's one part of yes. And I was going to say something else, but I can't remember now. But did you have something?
It's just relatively easy if you just say what you ain't you. What bugs you about other people, and then you can say what part of me resonates with and is like, but not fully expressed in terms of meeting its needs like those other persons. So if somebody that's really angry bugs you, you can say, well, I don't think I'm angry, but if I had an angry part, what would it need? And if you get down to what it needs, it'll be something like assertion, appropriate expression, and things like that. And and then the other person's anger no longer bugs you, but it becomes a way of, I get what you need. Maybe we can address that. So that's the trick. What ain't you? Because that's what you is, but you don't know it as long as you think you ain't. That's separation. And so when you can embrace both what you is and what you ain't, you've got both, and then you're on the next level of consciousness, as Wilbur pointed out.
Well, the compartmentalization causes us to, first of all, a pluralistic ignorance. We're doing one part of our life, so we're self-censoring, right? So we have the part that says, okay, I can't do this because it's not moral. It's not conforming to the beliefs of my society or my religion. And so you censor that part of yourself because you don't want to have the punishment from yourself, which will feel shame and that it's a sin, judge it, and from the outside world, which will do the same. So, but people are really doing it. Like you said, when you woke up, you realized, I already knew all this. So you were self-censoring the things that you knew from other parts of yourself in order to receive, to live a life where you weren't being chastised and criticized and punished, or perhaps in some places people get killed for expressing their beliefs, which are things that we really know on this higher level and we suppress.
Yeah, and then what they told me was the reversal, you guys said it so well, is integration, and they broke the word down for me, enter, grace, and gratitude. So the grace part is for others and for ourselves to be accepting unconditional love, and gratitude is to be grateful for each other's who they are, who I am, and be grateful what they bring to our lives, whether it's yucky stuff or good stuff. And so those two things together were very enlightening for me.
Wow. So we want to eventually get through a couple things here. We need to get your story, and we want to get into the AR Bordon stuff. And I think we should, do about an hour of this today so we don't go into overload. And we're going to gradually introduce our listeners to this concept in a whole series of interviews around the AR Bordon information and the contactees and experiencers and that type of thing. So let's see, what time is it? I have 47 before the hour. We have about 15 minutes left. What would you like to focus on in the remaining 13 minutes? And I think Dr. Lesson has to run to the appointment, so we'll let him go, but he might come back before he goes out the door. Back to you, Karen.
Okay, yeah. I'll go ahead and talk about AR Bordon and how I kind of hooked up with his material and other things. I had been doing this journaling automatic process, automatic writing thing, and learning basically from aliens and learning about galactic history and then philosophy and a lot of things. And I found an article on UFO Digest by AR Bordon, and I thought it was great, and talking about entities and whatnot. I had a UFO experience of significance, and also I was writing down, downloads from some beings, and so now what the heck's going on with me? So I found his article very interesting, and I contacted him, and what happened eventually was he had the original Life Physics group was like 30 years ago, renegade physicists plus psychic intuitives, and what happened is they developed a lot of interesting ideas and theories, particularly about something they call the working model. So it's a little bit different idea of physics, more along the lines of the quantum hologram than, the working model we have with Einstein and all of that. And so I was he had a time at an internet forum, Life Physics group. So we had the original Life Physics group was the physics renegades and the intuitives that discovered this working model. And then in the 2011 era, he had the Life Physics Group Forum, and that was some of the original members of the group, physicists, but it was also new people that he was bringing in who had a curiosity about this. So we didn't know each other's names. It was kind of an anonymous forum. And so we interacted with each other, and eventually we kind of knew each other's at least first name basis and exchanged some emails. And also exchanged writings from the Life Physics group and mostly AR Bordon via email to read all the different writings and white papers that came out of the original group. So basically, I found out subsequent to that, AR Bordon has always been a teacher, has always been teaching different groups. I've now met all kinds of groups from different eras of his life, and he passed away in 2013. And this Life Physics group forum was up for a while, and then it came back down. And it was, this kind of thing is kind of common with experiencer type things, or alternative science kinds of things. But basically, there was different projects that happened, but it's mostly what people would get frustrated and they come back. And the thing that makes them come back is that the terminology, the working model, a lot of the things are so compelling. I took a break from it myself, and then I came back and, worked with the writings to try to understand it. It's very intense. It's difficult to understand. Different people cue on different parts of the implications of these studies. For myself, it was most helpful trying to understand ET contact, what was happening to me, why I was able to do it so easily. And it also was very helpful of why was I getting information. So that whole cumulus thing was really helpful for me to go, well, how come it is I can always get this information all the time? And there was a good explanation of why that is so. So anyway, so this was where it's at now, is because of, the legacy of all the writing that he did and what he told all of us. We all had different pieces and parts. So different ones of us have, friendships, and we share different information or talk about different concepts. It's kind of starting to come online now. There's a few groups and that coming online in Facebook. Mm-hmm. So I don't have a lot of resources. I gave you a couple resources of links of different resources coming online. I didn't not AR specific, but and there's a Lulu bookstore, and so it's still being discussed. There's wild rumors about who AR was, and that's because there's some mysterious figures in sort of the back channels of quantum physics that is AR. For instance, 15 from the Labyrinth group. That's one, rumor. And I wouldn't know. I came in late in the deal, and I just really appreciated the concepts, and the terminology is very difficult. So I've had to kind of take the terms I know and translated them into what I call LPGEs, Life Physics Group E's, LPGEs. I've had to kind of translate them for myself so I understand them. And it's a continuing unfoldment. Very interesting people, very good-hearted people.
The thing I want to say for our listeners is that, and this is what stuck out for me about AR Bordon's information, is that he was stating that there are meetings with extraterrestrials in various locations around the Earth or perhaps in space. Not sure exactly where all these meetings were. They're secret. It's much like the
once a month.
Is it once a month?
Oh yeah, I would say frequent. Yeah.
It was every month, and it's like the Bilderbergers, and they meet all the time, and they were making decisions with these extraterrestrials, with human representatives, of which one was AR Bordon, about about humanity and the Earth and the things that were coming through, like the Nibiru. So what I wanted to just say was, to those listeners out there, we are creating this online discussion. We're archiving it in support of the groups that are forming on Facebook and the other social media, and all the work that has been put out by AR and the other people in all the years before. We're correlating this information in a series of discussion panels and web radio broadcasts, which I hope you and the others will distribute far and wide, and that we get the members of this group, perhaps those who actually sat in these meetings, to come forth and participate in these conversations. And Karen, I really appreciate you being the first one. Well, we've talked to Michael J. Hill for about 2 years now and had him on several of our radio shows. But when it's one lone wolf in the, barking at the moon, howling at the moon, it seems that people don't really take it seriously. But if we have many people that come forth about this issue, then I think that is a form of our disclosure that we've been seeking as a community to take humanity to this next level that we need to take in order to survive as a species and to prevent this major destruction of our planet.
Yeah, there was all the different researchers were in so many different areas. You would need not quite a number of people to speak to it, because different ones would be studying different aspects of it. Because it literally is their working model is called idiomaterial is the term that's used. Idiomaterial physics. Idea becomes, thought becomes matter, right? Idiomaterial.
Right.
And it's a whole working model. And so different ones have, studied or continued to work on different aspects. I'm way more in the contactee experiencer side, continuing to try to understand the mechanism of that to explain in layman's terms. That, some people think that you should go get a physics degree before you even begin to talk about this kind of stuff. And not everyone's going to be able to afford that. And I have math dyslexia. I was a computer science major, but my math dyslexia made it difficult to keep going. So I went and I studied as intuitive, and I got really good information for myself.
Okay, let's Dr. Let's say something.
Okay, well, I think that the people that are out of the regular physics box realize that thoughts matter. That is,
right.
that obviously in a quantum universe. We are the positroniums that break out the static electron to create whatever physical realities there are. And some of the things I hope in the future that we'll get to as we go through this AR Bordon thing are, first of all, that there has been, in his 207 stuff in the link, Bordon said there's these terrible things that are going to happen at the perigee, the nearing of Nibiru, as it passes to between Jupiter and Mars. And then in subsequent writing, he's shown that this link and the different people that were considering what to do actually created a way of altering time-space or using the heavy gravitons or however they did it so that somehow the worst damage from the perigee of the planet X, Nibiru, has been avoided, is basically what they're saying. So I really want to explore that for one thing. And then the next thing we seem to have to deal with anyway is Armageddon, and the fact that the thoughts of many people are leading to this grand war where everybody gets wiped out, and there's the Iran has its Messiah, and Israel has its Messiah, and wow, so we need to get some counter thoughts going.
Right.
Yeah.
It seems on some level that these people that are they want it. You know, I have friends that are well versed in all this Anunnaki and Planet X stuff, but they get so excited that Planet X is going to wipe us out. And I go, you're excited like you want it to happen. You know, you turn it off, shut it off, don't talk about it because your thoughts are deeds, and people cannot quite get that their thoughts are deeds.
Well,
and if they get excited,
I have to say, yeah, like they're gleefully excited that, you know, this is it. I have to say that my basic career has been as a caregiver. I have a daughter who's disabled, and I took care of other family members and other people. If you have ever had to deal with the aftermath of just even a car accident or any kind of damage to the human body, you do not want a war. Oh, my God, because there's an aftermath, and it's not pretty, and it's horrible, and it affects the whole family and the whole society to have so many people damaged and destroyed. It just makes my blood curdle when I think of people being happy. The only people that are happy about a war are the ones that benefit by it and won't be injured. Period. That's what I feel like. Yeah, that's how I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
when someone's damaged, the bell tolls for all of us. Absolutely, because we are one. Because our natural state is loving oneness with, and so when anyone hurts, we hurt.
Right.
Yes. I agree.
Okay, well, we got to wrap up this show. We'll do another show in about 4 or 5 days, but let me give you the last couple minutes, and then we're going to
love talking
wrap
to you,
this up, Karen. Go ahead. And
I love talking to you guys. I've been following your work. There's so much that I follow. I kind of like check in with you guys once in a while, and I think you're right on the money on so many things. And so thank you for that. Especially the thing I appreciate about you guys the most is the who's who list of Anunnaki royalty, because that is the most confusing darn thing, all those different casts of characters. So I go to your website a lot to look up who's Elalu, who's, Sid, who are these people? Because they come up in my other historical research under other names. I'm trying to sort out who's you. So thank you for that. Mm-hmm. And then I just want to say I just published a download. It's a poetry book, which is a download of automatic writing, and it's titled Thought Equals Matter. And if you want me to, it's kind of along these ideas. I even have terminology from the LPGC in there that kind of worked its way in as I was writing this poetry. So if you want me to give the URL for that, and it's basically a free ebook, or people can contribute if they wish. It's a tiny, TINY URL, tinyurl.com/thought equals, kind of all in together. So tinyurl.com/thought equals. I just got it up on a platform called Gumroad, and I wrote this book, automatic writing. It was just one notebook, and it was really beautiful. I recently read it to one of my metaphysical study groups, and they liked it. So people check it out, and you'll get a few little sneaky LPGC terminology and ideas in there for you. So it might And it's poetry, so it's not physics or anything scary.
That's lovely. And we'll put that link up on our AquarianRadio.com website under Karen Christine Patrick. I have a bio up there for you, and we're going to continue this work. This is just an introduction to the AR Bordon, what am I calling it? Aliens, Anunnaki, AR Bordon, and us. And this will be a series. And I will call you after the show to do some logistics about future shows, and then for listeners, I'll get those dates up on my website, AquarianRadio.com, and just keep checking back because sometimes life gets ahead of me and I can't keep up with my internet stuff the best I can,
I can relate.
just like everybody else. So thank you so much, Karen, for coming on the show today. Sasha, you have your final word?
We're going to put this interview on Yankee Speaks so that that's a good place for you to listen to it again and again.
Right. We'll put it in our archives.
Oh, my gosh. I feel so honored. You have no idea. I checked your site so many times. I'm like super honored.
We are so honored to have you. Everybody has a light to shine, and you have a very bright light, Karen, and I look forward to meeting your partner, Brett, and everybody else. If we're doing this, people out there, if you were part of AR Bordon's work, please write to us at aquarianradio@gmail.com. We're going to be doing a couple panels on Revolution Radio in July and August. So, Chris, Karen, I want to have you on as well with those things. Sasha, one more thing to say?
The universe is one great plan, and if you are responding to what we're talking about, and you want to talk to us, we want to talk to you because we get it. We're being drawn together.
Oh, and the name of your Facebook page that they can go to join. What is the name of that, Karen?
Well, I have a few. One of them is on the experiencer side. I'm part of the Dr. Edgar Mitchell Foundation for Research into Extraterrestrial Encounters, and it's facebook.com/groups/FREE, stands for free, and .experiencer. So I gave that link to you, and that is a great, wonderful, cool group happening of people who all over the planet who've been experiencing all kinds of beings, and we're part of the movement to come out of the closet, come out of the ET closet. And in October 1st, there's going to be Experiencers Liberation Day. So, hey.
Right. And what about the AR Bordon? Isn't there a Facebook page?
Yeah, the Writings of AR Bordon is one of them.
Please. Yeah, I didn't put that on the list, but please note that we're going to be having the downloads come through an organization because it was his wish that his writings be the financials from the writings support the homeless. So I've got friends working on that, and we'll let you know more about that. You should interview them too. They're awesome.
Cool.
Oh, excellent. So I think that's probably good for today. We're out of time, everybody. Thank you, Karen. Thank you, listeners. Thank you, Sasha. Much love and blessings and aloha. So we'll see you probably Friday. I'll call you, Karen, about a date, but we're looking at Thursday or Friday of next week for our next broadcast on the AR Bordon Anunnaki Alien series. Okay.
Awesome.
Aloha. Blessings.
Namaste.
Bye-bye.
Have you heard? Metro by T-Mobile now includes Amazon Prime. Yes, enjoy the best of shopping and entertainment, movies, TV shows, music, free shipping, and much more. All included for just $40 per line for 3 lines. All on the T-Mobile network. Discover the smarter way. Metro by T-Mobile. That's genius. One offer per account. Offer subject to change. $12.99 per month value. Offer valid for new Amazon Prime members. Metro customers may notice reduced speeds versus some T-Mobile customers. Video at 480p. Capable device required. See store for details and terms and conditions.